Not one, not two, but John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Hey movie watchers, welcome to today's review of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, starring Keanu Reeves, Halle Berry, Ian McShane, Lawrence Fishburne, Mark Dacascos, Asia Dillon, Lance Reddick, and was directed by the original director Chad Stahelski. If you're new to this channel, I talk about my likes, my dislikes, and then give you the breakdown. All my reviews have spoilers, so consider this to be your one and only warning. Okay, movie watchers, let's review. So, Chapter 3 starts off right where Chapter 2 leaves off, which is always a good thing in storytelling, in my opinion. John has 1 hour before his excommunication and his bounty become active, and every assassin comes after him. He goes to the theater lady to ask for safe passage, and we get a glimpse into his past and where he comes from, and kind of how he was raised, and ultimately what makes John Wick John Wick. And like every kid in this place also has the exact same tattoos as John, which was kind of a cool little nugget, I thought. So he turns in his ticket to get safe passage to Casablanca, then he meets up with Sophia, where he basically turns in his little chit or whatever, to get a favor out of her. She gets him a meeting with Barada, which ends up going terribly wrong for him. Sophia then drops him off in the desert for a really long, dehydrated walk. He passes out and then gets picked up by some random guy with a camel. John gets taken to the Elder, who is supposedly the only person who's above the high table. He's looking to stay alive, to keep the memory of his wife alive, and he ultimately agrees to kill Winston, and in return for his undying loyalty. John barely makes it back to the Continental alive to meet with Winston, and then ultimately decides not to kill him. Then the Continental gets deconsecrated, which is no longer a safe haven anymore. So now John and Sharon, I think I said that right, have to defend the Continental against a bunch of assassins, and John has got more lives than an entire litter of kittens at this point. Winston agrees to a parlay with the adjudication lady, and he ultimately gets to keep the Continental, but ends up shooting John off the rooftop. And in the final scene, it looks like the King and John Wick are going to be teaming up to take on the High Table. My gosh, a lot happens in this movie. Starting with my likes, like number 1, I really like what they're doing with this story and how they've created their own John Wick universe. It brings in some of John's origins, helps us understand who he is, where he came from. It brings in a lot of new characters and even develops the arcs and the further relationships with some of the main characters. It also really gives us a better understanding of the structure and the system and the high table and basically how all of this stuff works. Chapter 3 is just full of layers, and it's really complex and it's a really deep story. First, he has to visit his past in order to get to Casablanca to meet up with Sophia. Then they have to go meet with Barada in order to get to the Elder who's above the high table. Then all the way back to the Continental. Now the Continental isn't safe anymore, and now the Continental is safe again, but the people under the high table are starting to get really pissed off. So I'm really looking forward to Chapter 4. It looks like it's going to be a no rules, rebellion, revolution type of thing. Like number 2, they definitely took it up a notch with the choreography and with the fight scenes. At this point, it is kind of expected, but they delivered. He's on a horse, he's on a motorcycle, he's in a pawn shop with knives and weapons galore all over the place. He's got a partner in Casablanca who's got some really badass dogs. Okay, those scenes were so much fun to watch, actually. Then he's defending the Continental with Charon. And you can't forget about the fight scenes in the glass room, which are a lot of fun too. All in all, I think they really outdid themselves with this movie. Moving on to my dislikes. Dislike number 1, my least favorite thing that they're doing, they really started it in Chapter 2, but they continued it here in Chapter 3. And that is basically, it seems and feels like everyone's an assassin. Like 1 out of 10 people or so are an assassin or are somehow like Everyone's got the cell phone, everyone gets the text message, everyone knows when his bounty's active. Like everyone is somehow interconnected into the system. You couldn't throw a rock in any direction without hitting at least 5 assassins. They're just everywhere, and they're everybody and anybody. I do think this is actually kind of silly. I mean, if there are this many assassins like all over the world, then how many people really need someone else dead? It seems like there's just a bunch of assassins. You'd seem like there'd be lots of people needing to die. Also, I found it kind of strange that they're all kind of in competition with one another. You know, when a bounty goes active, like John's bounty, and like they don't ever kill each other. They don't ever attack each other. They all wait their turn to get a piece of John. Like this group of people will attack, and then when they die, the next group of people will attack. Like none of them seem to kill each other, and it just kind of like they're all in competition, so it just kind of seems a little far-fetched. Dislike number 2, as a movie series that prides itself on being realistic, they are starting to kind of get away from this. And I understand that in filmmaking, you need to go up a level, you need to go up a notch, you gotta up the ante from the previous movie, go bigger, go harder, go farther, that kind of thing. But I kind of feel like they're going a little bit too far, and if they step out too far away from the foundation that they basically have built for themselves, I wouldn't be too surprised if that structure starts to fall. For an example, early on in the movie, he gets hit by 2 cars in a row, and the guys who are trying to kill him basically just like wait for John to get up and run off before they get out of the vehicles and chase after him. Another example is the motorcycle scene. From the trailers, I thought this scene was gonna be mind-blowing. I thought it was gonna be huge, but it actually, I don't think it was all that good. For some reason, I couldn't get over the fact that he could basically have a katana fight on a motorcycle while riding in a perfectly straight line without moving left or right, speeding up or slowing down, without sustaining any major injuries, and it just seemed really phony to me. And look, I get that John's a badass. That's why we're watching these movies. But he's not a superhuman. And he sustains way too much damage. And not only does he get up afterwards, but then he engages in hand-to-hand combat to the death. I mean, I feel like he would have so many broken bones, dislocated joints, torn ligaments. Like, he'd probably even have organ failure at this point. And at the end of the movie, he basically jumps off a rooftop, hits the concrete ground, and still survives. It is still a really awesome movie, but I hope that in Chapter 4, they don't go as unrealistic as they did here in Chapter 3. Movie watcher question. Which of the 3 John Wick movies is your favorite? I'll put my answer in the comment section down below. Okay, movie watchers, here's the breakdown. I am giving the writing an 8 out of 10 because I really love how they're really expanding and developing the story and this entire universe. The acting is getting a 7.5 out of 10. I have no issues with the actual acting parts. In fact, on this, I think they do wonderful. But there are several fight scenes where the actors are having to kind of overact in order to sell the scene or to sell the choreography. And in multiple fight scenes, you can actually tell, even though it's awesome, you can actually tell that it's choreography, that it's been rehearsed. The cinematography gets a 9 out of 10 because they really stepped up their game in Chapter 3 compared to Chapters 1 and 2. There was just so much color and intensity and so much cinematic emotion in this movie. I am giving the directing for Chapter 3 a 6.5 out of 10 as I think he could have done a lot better actually. Knowing when to cut during fight scenes can really make or break the fight scene. I did see several instances where better editing or a better camera location would have actually improved the scene. And some of the choices that I think he made, I think were bad. Fight scenes are too long and nobody can really endure that much damage or have that much stamina. And then you got him falling off the rooftop, which I think is just stupid. But overall, John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum gets an 8 out of 10 from me. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share for me. I've got more reviews and discussions coming your way, so check back soon for those, and I'll see you on the next one.